having a childhood that wasn't everything that we would always want. When a person has gone through an unhappy childhood, how does that impact the rest of their life and different things that I know you've experienced? So there's just so much that we can talk about this, but it's really important because it's not something that everybody can address.
Well, obviously, part of the answer depends on what they went through, how long it was, how devastating it was. My father sexually abused me. My mom knew he was doing it, but didn't have the courage to leave him. And on top of that, he was also very mean and controlling. And so I grew up rooted in fear. That's pretty much all I remember is just fear.
Yeah.
And my dad was a very unhappy person. And so one of the things that I know that I really missed, that I think still I could use a little help in it in my life, and that is I never really got to be a child. I felt like I was always an adult. I just don't remember ever being carefree and happy and, sitting on my dad's lap, trusting him to take care of me.
Laughing and playing.
And really a large part of my younger years was trying to make sure my mother didn't find out, which, there was a good number of years where she didn't know. And, because my dad would always tell me, you got to make sure your mother doesn't find out. And so I really felt like I spent most of my time trying to take care of her. And so I think every healthy adult should have a healthy child in them. So we can do our responsibilities, but we can also have a lighthearted attitude and know how to have fun.
So how do you have that? How do you find that if you've never experienced it in your life?
Well, I think I'm still learning. You first of all, as you know, I almost worked myself to death because I felt like that gave me value. And my dad seemed to be happier with me when I was working than if I was playing. I remember getting in trouble for laughing if he didn't want to hear laughter. And I think there's deep things in you that only God can heal. And I am already, my personality would lend itself more toward being serious. And then it just takes time, Ginger. It takes time. It takes God showing you things. It takes prayer. And so much of our personality is formed in really the first few years of our life. And then interestingly enough, I think that to some degree, I don't know what I missed. Because
it makes a lot of sense.
I never had it. I know that children trust. If you tell a child on Saturday we're going to go on a picnic, they're going to believe you. But I couldn't trust, because I was afraid. And so I had difficulty trusting for a long time. I trusted myself more than anybody else. It's like, well, nobody else is going to take care of me, so I better do it. And but I think in some ways I don't know what all I missed.
Yeah. Do you find that God can help you kind of reclaim some of those things that you missed?
Yeah.
Whether it's through your own children and seeing that with them, or I don't know what it may be, but...
Well, I was never real big on playing with my kids. For like getting down the floor and playing with them. I took good care of my kids, but I've never had a lot of play in me. And I'm still learning. I believe that God restores everything we've lost. But I had so many problems from the abuse. So many. There were so many roots and rootlets, and I think I've been in a continual healing pattern from the time I really turned my life over to Christ. And I just let him bring up different things, and we've taken a stab at, helping me be more childlike, and I've made progress. I've definitely made progress, but I'm not saying
I've seen
that
you be
there-
childlike
yeah.
before.
And I'm not. I'll goof around now and
Yeah, in a good way.
Yeah, and have more fun. But you tell me, as someone who had a really good childhood, what did you get that somebody like me would probably be missing?
I think one of the biggest things for me was a natural understanding of a loving Heavenly Father, because I had a loving earthly father who set an example. So I think that was huge. And like you said, faith and trust. And I've kind of had to learn the opposite. I've had to learn that you have to be cautious at times, that not everything is safe.
Right.
And so we all have different things to learn. But whatever our upbringing is, God is always in the midst of it to take us where he wants us to go. It's not always what he wanted it to be as things were happening. But I know in your life that there were many things that happened that God is now using to help so many other
Right.
people.
Yeah.
So it's so difficult to say what
And
I
that's
didn't
part
have,
of
but I
God
gained.
That's part of what God's redemption.
Exactly.
He's redeeming it.
Yeah.
By letting it not go to waste.
Right.
I always like the miracle where Jesus had just a little bit of bread and a few fish, and he fed thousands of people, but there were 12 baskets of fragments left over.
More than enough.
Yeah, and I love the fact that he told the disciples, gather the fragments so that nothing is lost and wasted. And so I think the fragments of anyone's life, if you feel your life has been fragmented and torn apart and there's nothing left but little pieces and you don't even know how to put them back together, you can trust God to use them. And that's part of the redemption that the devil absolutely
Oh, that's beautiful.
despises.
Yeah.
And you said you always knew that you were loved. And see, that was something, I spent a long time with God learning how to accept his unconditional love. And the other thing that happened with my dad that was so devastating was he seemed like he was always mad about something. And you never knew who at or why, and you could do something one day and it would be fine. The next day you could do it and get in trouble for it. And so I went through a lot of that, is God mad at me? Or just a general feeling that, I probably did something wrong. I would tiptoe around the house, so to speak, not in reality, but just like being so careful not to make my dad mad. And so I spent a lot of years in my relationship with God like that. But I've come through that. I'm comfortable with God now. I know that he loves me, and I don't live all the time feeling like he's probably mad at me.
Yeah.
But just as an encouragement to people who had a bad childhood, just please keep in mind that God is a restorer of those things that have been lost. And even if you don't know what all you've lost, you start asking God to heal you and he will restore the things that you lost. He'll restore trust. He'll restore love. He'll teach you how to play. And another thing about children is they forgive very quickly. They don't, they can be so mad at a friend.
And they're best friends again very soon.
And 2 seconds later, they're best friends
Yeah.
again. And so that's another thing that I think God's restoration can help, is you don't have to hold grudges against people.
Yeah. I love that thought of restoration, that whatever our past has been, God is in the business of our future.
Right.
And using it for our good and for his as well.
And he uses everything we give him. He'll use it, make something good out of it.
Yeah. Thank you.